Welcome back to the final part of our story. In the last episode, we left Pharaoh Ramses II cornered and fighting for his life. Today, we discover how he survived and how a bloody war led to the world's first ever peace treaty. To help us bring more stories like this to life, please subscribe, hit the bell icon, and share this video. Part 2. The first peace treaty. The year is 1258 BC. The place, the Orontes River in present-day Syria. A few moments before, an elite unit of Egyptian chariots commanded by Pharaoh Ramses II had managed to break through the Hittite lines. Now, however, they were trapped on an island in the middle of the river, surrounded by thousands of Hittite foot soldiers and chariots who had formed a near-impenetrable ring around them. Outnumbered and with their backs against the river, the Egyptians prepared for a final stand, believing death to be imminent. Some say Ramses himself drew his sword ready to fight to the death, but then something unexpected happened. Instead of launching the expected assault, the Hittites retreated, leaving the island and the pharaoh's forces unguarded. Seeing their chance, the Egyptians fled across the river, making their way back to safety. In the aftermath, the Egyptians celebrated what they believed to be a great victory, even though they had lost hundreds of chariots and thousands of troops. On the other side, the Hittite king, Muwatalli II, was also counting his losses, which included the deaths of many nobles and high-ranking officials. Despite this, he, too, declared victory, claiming to have beaten back the invaders and forced them to retreat. The truth, however, was that neither side could claim victory. Both empires had suffered heavy casualties and were now exhausted, drained of resources. Now it would be easy to believe that this was the end of the story. After all, ancient warfare was notoriously brutal. It wasn't uncommon for entire cities to be wiped off the map or for defeated rulers to be put to death. So, why did Ramses and the Hittites not simply finish each other off? Well, there are many reasons. For the Hittites, the war with Egypt had been expensive and exhausting. Not only had they lost many soldiers and resources, but the constant fighting had destabilized their empire. In fact, just as the war with Egypt was reaching its peak, the Hittite king, Muwatalli II, died suddenly, perhaps from wounds sustained in battle, leaving the throne to his successor, the aforementioned Hattusili III, who was only 13 years old at the time. This succession crisis had weakened the Hittite state and made further conflict with Egypt untenable. But the Hittites weren't the only ones feeling the strain. In Egypt, the war had been a logistical nightmare. The Egyptians had invaded Syria expecting a quick and easy victory, but they had been met with fierce resistance. Moreover, the war had drained the Egyptian treasury and the people were growing weary of fighting. In fact, some advisors had been urging Ramses to seek a peaceful resolution long before the Battle of Kadesh. But the pharaoh had been reluctant to do so. Why, you might ask? Well, because of his own pride and the fact that he had never backed down from a fight in his entire life. In short, he didn't know how to make peace. Still, the advisors were right. The war was going nowhere fast and the costs were simply too high. But how could Ramses end the war without losing face? That's when he came up with a brilliant idea. He would declare the Battle of Kadesh a tie, saying that no side had one. Then he would invite the Hittites to a peace conference, where he could negotiate a treaty that would guarantee peace between the two empires for generations to come. It was a risky plan, but in the end, it paid off. In the following months, secret envoys from Egypt and the Hittite Empire met several times, trying to work out the terms of the treaty. The Egyptians traveled to the Hittite capital of Hadassa, while the Hittites came to Memphis in Egypt. The talks were long and difficult, but eventually the two sides reached an agreement. In the end, the treaty was a masterpiece of diplomacy. It established a number of important principles that would become the foundation of international law for centuries to come. First and foremost, the treaty established a non-aggression pact between Egypt and the Hittites, pledging that neither side would attack the other ever again. This was a radical idea at the time, since most treaties between nations simply said that if you don't attack me, I won't attack you. This treaty, however, went further by explicitly stating that neither side would ever attack the other, no matter what happened. It also included a mutual defense clause, which meant that if either side was attacked by a third party, the other side was obligated to come to its defense. Additionally, the treaty established a system for extradition, which allowed each side to request the return of criminals and fugitives from the other side. These provisions were revolutionary and would help to usher in an era of peace and stability in the region. Finally, to symbolize the peace between the two nations, Ramses II would marry a Hittite princess. Although the exact terms of the treaty are unknown, it's clear that it was a resounding success. It ushered in a period of peace and stability between two of the most powerful empires in the ancient world, allowing both of them to focus on internal affairs rather than external conflict. Moreover, the treaty established a number of important legal principles that would become the foundation of international law for centuries to come. And that, my friends, is the incredible story of how the Battle of Kadesh led to the world's first ever peace treaty. As we've seen, the events surrounding the battle were complex and far-reaching, with ramifications that extended far beyond the immediate conflict. From the military tactics employed by the Egyptians and Hittites to the diplomatic negotiations that followed, every aspect of this story is a testament to the ingenuity and resilience of the human spirit. The greatest victory wasn't won on the battlefield, but at the negotiating table. Thank you for joining us on this epic journey. If you enjoyed it, please like and share this video with anyone interested in history. And be sure to subscribe for more historical stories coming soon. Until then, stay curious, stay thirsty for knowledge, and remember, the past is never truly past. It's always a part of who we are.